Hello and welcome to day 24 of the Advent Calendar Drink Along. It is Christmas Eve and it is bittersweet. It is the last day of Advent, so we are finishing on a biggie. It's been from Lakeman and it is their Ghost Ship. Cheers. We've had some good beers, hey? This has been our 8th Advent Calendar at Beer Jerk. So thank you so much for joining along for the whole journey. And if you're not a member of our beer club, you should get involved. It is basically this, only we just drink one beer per week. So you sign up at our website and we send you a 6-pack of 6 different beers, but you're not allowed to drink the beers. You can only drink one beer per week. So each week I send you an email telling you the story all about the beer. And we do a drink along video as well. So we discover lots of interesting and wonderful beers every single week. So that's been going for 11 years coming up. So yeah, 550 beers or thereabouts we've had so far, and never drunk the same beer twice at Beer Club. So get involved. You could be enjoying this sort of thing every single Thursday night or whatever night you like. So we are finishing a biggie as always with the Advent Calendar. Lakeman, you may know a bit about them. They're in Topor. It was started by a couple of farmers who are still farmers. They still keep some livestock, some cattle, and I think some sheep on their farm. They're just outside Topor on a hill, and it's a pretty self-sustaining brewery. So they've got their own bore, their own well, so they draw up their well water that they use in their beer, which is really fantastic. And of course the spent grain goes back towards them feeding their livestock, and that is how most spent grain is used actually. So you have a lot of waste when you're brewing. You brew the beer, which is when you boil the malted barley in your water for about an hour to convert those starches into sugars, and then you have the spent grain that doesn't really have much nutritional value left to it. Because it's all been taken out with the boiling. So you can do stuff with it. So there are people that don't do cool stuff with drying it out and making it into flour. So you can have spent grain cookies and crackers, dog treats. You can use it in baking bread and things. But as I say, the nutritional content for humans is negligible. I mean, there's some fibre and ballast in there, but most of the goodness has been taken out by the brewing process. But that is not the case for ruminants. So of course cows have several stomachs. It's the same way that they can eat grass, and we can't eat grass, or at least we wouldn't get any nutrition out of eating grass. Cows can get a lot of goodness out of the spent grain. So really nice that this Topol Brewery at Lakeman, they don't have to cart the feed for much of a distance because the livestock are right there. So I don't watch a lot of TV, but they had a feature on Country Calendar, I think a couple of years ago, and it clearly did huge things for the perception of the brewery, which is really lovely. So we've got our neighbours here at Small Glass Tap Room and Beer Jack HQ. It's an alarm company, and the lady Joanne that works there isn't really a big beer fan, but she pops in occasionally to get a few cans. But they became huge Lakeman fans after watching their feature on Country Calendar. Yeah, definitely would have won a few people over learning about the story of the brewery. And they have Jimmy Coops as well, so they've got their own bar in Topol in the actual town there, so you can go visit them. But barrel-aged stouts are one of the most exciting styles in craft beer. It really, I'd say the emergence of the style was really the pinnacle of modern craft beer. And it all came down to one brewery, really. It was Goose Island in the States in the early 90s. They're in an area where they're quite close to Kentucky and have a lot of access to cheap bourbon barrels. And they were just thinking about delicious imperial stouts. So Goose Island were doing a lot of like traditional English styles, so things like barley wines and imperial stouts and Baltic porters, things like that. And thinking about the qualities in a good stout and how that echoed the quality you get from oak and also from actual bourbon. So the thing with bourbon barrels, it's actually illegal to use the oak barrels more than once. So there's a big trade in using up these barrels, and in the last couple of decades, they've become very expensive commodities since brewers have been wanting to use them, and all sorts of stuff is people are using them for. So a lot of Scottish whiskey makers actually age their whiskey in bourbon barrels, which is really cool, sort of interesting sort of cycle of life. And of course you make furniture out of them and stuff. But yeah, back in the 90s, they were kind of junk, really. They just wanted to like get rid of them, so it worked out really nicely that Goose Island could get hold of these barrels, and it was a real experiment. Of course, beer has been kept in barrels for centuries. That's how it's transported. That's what coopers are. A cooper is a barrel maker, and so sort of links in with Jimmy Coops, who's the founder of Lakeman, and who is named his pub after himself. So yeah, these coopers would make barrels which were primarily used for storing beer. And there's I mentioned the other day the House of Guinness show on Netflix. There's a really good scene in that where a load of barrels are set on fire. It's like some good drama. But that hasn't been done in the recent century, I suppose. Because you can get a lot of oxidization in barrels. So it's way better to keep your beer and store your beer in stainless steel. So it was quite a risky thing for the guys at Goose Island to initially put their beer into wooden barrels, but it was a gamble that definitely paid off, and it just really worked. It became a hit really quickly because you've got the oakiness, you've got there's like big vanilla flavour that comes out of oak, which is so tasty. And when you have just a big, rich, robust imperial stout that's got layers of using some rye malt in there, but all different delicious, complex specialty malts in there, and then you've literally got the flavour of bourbon that very much is still seeped into the wood and comes out into the beer, which just has such a lovely sweetness to it, and it just goes together so perfectly. And if you're looking for a book to read over the break, or an audio book to listen to, in fact. There's a great one that I read years ago called Barrel Aged Stout and Selling Out, which is the story of Goose Island, and how it's this one beer really encapsulates the whole craft beer movement and the whole cycle of it, really, the whole boom of it, and then through to the brewery selling out to Anheuser-Busch, and they still make their barrel aged stouts at Goose Island. And it's interesting seeing in the craft beer forums and groups on Facebook about this beer that was once so special and rare being sold at discount prices at places like Walmart or Costco in the States, and all the different variants now. And there were stories a few years ago. I think they just scrapped whole batches of it because, of course, it's beers like this are not commodity. This isn't Stein Lager. It's not Pabst Blue Ribbon. It takes a long time and a lot of work to make a beer like this. And yes, they are expensive, but not as expensive as they should be. And it's always confusing for me when I speak to people that talk about how expensive craft beer is. And it's kind of a perception that isn't actually true. You can come into a free house or a bar like this, and a glass of delicious beer is $12, but then you go to a bar and drink a bottle of Heineken, and that's $12 or $14 more like, and it costs way less to make a bottle of Heineken, and for the venues to actually buy a bottle of Heineken and sell it to your customer at $14. So there's loads of money being made in these beers as commodities that I spoke about a few days ago, with breweries that have huge budgets and huge branding. So yeah, it probably isn't really a priority for Anheuser-Busch and AB InBev and all these sort of breweries to really lean into beers like this that are pretty inefficient and pretty it doesn't matter how popular they are, it's just not a very profitable way to age a beer for a year, and just the storage and everything else, even if you're selling it at twice the price you're selling it at, compared to making watery mass-produced lagers. So that book, Barrel Aged Stout and Selling Out, you can get it as the audio book as well. I think I listened to it on, it will be on Spotify, but there's a really good app called Libby, which if you have a library card, you can get Libby, and it is totally free, and it's full of audiobooks and magazines and books and everything else. So you can have them on your iPad or your phone or whatever. So I'd recommend Libby as my Christmas tip for you. Hopefully you're going to be getting to do some good relaxing. And yeah, this beer is a brilliant, really, really good example of a bourbon stout. It's got a touch of coconut in it in the ingredients, and that does come through. But no, it's not over the top with adjuncts whatsoever. It definitely is on the slightly stickier side. You're getting the sweetness out of the bourbon. You're getting good body to it. It's just a really good like Christmassy, boozy treat. It's such a good style of beer. And it would be great to see more beers like this. I love beers that have been aged in barrels, and you can do all sorts of stuff with wood, but also different kinds of barrels. A beer that I loved a few years ago was a Moondog beer. It was aged in Calvados barrels, which is apple brandy. So that was called Mummy Have a Bite. So it was a real like caramel flavoured barley wine beer that was aged in the Calvados. So it was a real like toffee apple vibe to it. But there are some breweries that do good stuff with wine barrels as well. There's Kainui Brewing up in Northland that does small batches, and you rarely see their beer outside of the Plough and Feather. That's their brew pub. So they do a lovely range of saisons that are aged in Chardonnay barrels and Sauvignon Blanc barrels. So yeah, really cool sticking beer in barrels and having that like cross pollination, sort of going back and forth with other kinds of drinks. So yeah, really delicious big beer to end up on. It is a gorgeous day here. It is the middle of summer. We had the solstice a couple of days ago. But I don't know, I like drinking imperial stouts any time of year. Maybe not sat in a hammock on a beach in the bright sunshine in the middle of the day, but definitely, as it's getting into evening, I don't really see a beer like this as being seasonal at all. When it's, evening time, it's a good sipper. I like to call a beer like this a TV beer. It's a great beer just to nurse while you're watching Dread. Or some other fantastic film for an hour or so. Means you don't have to get up and go to the fridge to get more beers. You can really just sit on this for a while. So brilliant work, Lakeman. They're really known for their imperial stouts. They do, they knock it out of the park. When I see a Lakeman imperial stout, but I generally just grab it because it's going to be an absolutely solid beer, and this is very, very, very good. Thank you again for joining us for the Advent Calendar, for the final beer for our 8th year of the Beer Advent Calendar. I'll see you next year, but hopefully I'll see you in the coming weeks as part of our beer club, and we'll keep it going the whole year round. See you next time. Cheers.